Hi, welcome back. And if this is your first time, welcome to Ganny's Story Time. I am going to read to you today one of my absolute favorite stories. This story is called Rabbit Stew, and it's about a very, very, very smart dog and some rabbits that this dog doesn't think is very smart are very smart. The story was written by Donna Cossow, and so she is the author, and it's illustrated by Tamara Patricino. And an illustrator is somebody who does all these pictures. So if you like to draw and you don't write, one day you might be could be able to illustrate a storybook. Okay, this is called Rabbit Stew, and this is the stuff that goes into a stew. Looks like we have some vegetables: carrots, onions, potatoes, celery. Let's see what happens here. And there's those little rabbits. Here we go. Once, a while back, in a rickety old shack, there lived a dog. He wasn't very smart, and he didn't have much money, but this dog was very happy. This dog had a garden laid out in neat rows. You see the rows of the garden, and it was nestled in a sunny meadow. In the spring, the dog planted seeds in his garden, and in the summer, he cared for the plants and watched them grow. Then he would pick and eat the vegetables that he had grown. The dog loved his garden. Now, see, once you plant seeds and you take care of it and water, this is the stuff that grows. But he had one big problem. Hungry rabbits would sneak into his garden and they would nibble on the vegetables. They would be eating them. They made holes in his cabbage leaves and they dug up his carrots and potatoes and they chewed on his parsley. The dog tried chasing the rabbits away, but they always came back. Then one day, the dog looked out his window and saw those darn rabbits eating all his tender new lettuce plants. This is what lettuce is like for salads and things. That was the last straw. The dog ran into the garden and he chased the rabbits around and around until he caught them at last with a leap and a pounce. So he chased them rabbits round and round and round and then pounced on them and caught them. Thought the dog. Now, what should I do with these pesky rabbits? Maybe I'll make a rabbit stew. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. So the dog took the rabbits inside and then he put them into a large cooking pot. Look at those rabbits in that cooking pan. Then he opened his cookbook, but he couldn't find a recipe for rabbit stew. And he didn't know what to do. He's sitting there thinking, going, now I got the rabbits and I want to make a stew, but I don't know how to make rabbit stew. One clever rabbit said, well, you could go out to the garden and get some carrots to put in the stew. Well, that's a good idea, thought the dog. So he said to those little rabbits, you wait right here while I go out to the garden and get some carrots. Well, and the little rabbits, they nodded up and down with their heads and they said, oh yes, we'll do our best. They're going to try their best to stay in that cooking pot. But as soon as the dog went out to the garden, the rabbits leaped from the pot and they scampered happily out the door. When the dog returned, he saw that all those rabbits were gone. He dropped the carrots into the pot, feeling a little disappointed. See, he walked out the door to go get the carrots like the rabbit said, but they jumped out of the cooking pot. The next day, when the dog looked out his window, those rabbits were nibbling his onions. Right there, eating onions. So the dog chased them around and around and around until he caught them with a leap and a pounce. And then he took those rabbits back inside and put them back into the large cooking pot. Now, said the dog, I have rabbits and carrots to make some stew, rabbit stew. So see, he took them back in. He's got the rabbits and carrots. Then one of the little rabbits said, "But you must have some celery for rabbit stew." "You sure?" said the dog. "I'll go out to the garden and I'll get some celery. But this time you have to remember to stay in the pot, okay?" Those little rabbits nodded their heads and they said, oh yes, we'll try our best." Now, if you were a rabbit and you were in a cooking pot, would you want to stay in it? Well, let's see what happens. But as soon as the dog went out to the garden, all the rabbits scampered happily out the door. When the dog came back, he saw that the rabbits were gone. As he put the celery in the pot, he thought to himself, "Those rabbits aren't very smart. They forgot to stay in the cooking pot again." I don't know. They might have been smarter than the dog thought. The next day, the hungry rabbits sneaked into the garden again. So the dog chased them around and around and around until he caught them at last with a leap and a pounce, looking at them running around and around. Then he put the rabbits back into the large cooking pot. "Well, let's see. I have rabbits and carrots and celery," said the dog. "Now I can make some rabbit stew." See, carrots, celery, and then he's got the rabbits. "Yeah, but you must have some potatoes and onions to make rabbit stew," said one clever little rabbit. "Yeah, I know that," said the dog, trying to look smart. "But if I go out to the garden, you rabbits will forget to stay in the pot." After thinking for a bit, one rabbit said, "Well, you could shut the door, and then we couldn't run out that way." "Well, that's a good idea," thought the dog. Then he said to the rabbits, "Now you stay in the pot while I go dig up some potatoes and onions." The rabbits nodded their little heads and they said, oh yes, we'll try our best." Once out to the garden the dog went, closing the door behind him. But as soon as he was gone, those rabbits leaped over to the window and jumped out. Then away they ran, glad they had fooled the dog again. Now, if I was a rabbit and someone wanted to make rabbit stew, I wouldn't even want to stay in their garden. When the dog came back, he saw that those rabbits were gone. He put the potatoes and onions in the pot, and to his surprise, the pot was full to the top with vegetables. There was not even any room for those rabbits. "Well, it's just as well that the rabbits are gone," said the dog, "because they wouldn't fit in the pot anyway. I'll just make rabbit stew without the rabbits." Then he felt very proud for having such a good idea. Happily, the dog poured in some water into the pot, and he turned on the stove, and he cooked his rabbit stew. And believe me, it smelled delicious. When you cook, you know how you can smell things? Oh, he could smell all them vegetables cooking, and it smelled wonderful. For supper, he ate 3 big bowls of stew, that rabbit did. And then when he couldn't eat another bite, the dog put some of the leftover stew outside. Look at there, outside for the rabbits. "After all," he said to himself, "those rabbits might not be very smart, but they sure do know how to make a good rabbit stew." And that is the end of that story. This is one of my favorite books, and it's let's see, All Aboard Books is the it's from Grosset and Dunlap, the publishers. Publishers put these stories and pictures together, the words and the pictures together into the book so you and me can read them. It's always good to pick up a book and read. It was fun. This was a fun story. Now, were those rabbits not smart? They were very smart. They jumped out of that pot. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed Ganny's story time. I do this for Hash Brown, Madiddlin, and Jumpin' Jack. Here's a big hug for my 3. And I hope you enjoyed it. And there's a hug for you too. Come back and watch some more stories. I hope you liked it.